Paper, Enterprise Creation and Entrepreneurship. Section 1, Entrepreneurship, 34 marks. Question 1, differentiate between the following. A. Entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship. B. Innovators and imitators, 4 marks. Answer. A. Entrepreneurship versus intrapreneurship. Entrepreneurship, the process of identifying an opportunity, taking on financial risks in the hope of profit, and starting a new business venture. Entrepreneurs typically operate independently, bearing the full risk and reward of their ventures. Intrapreneurship, the act of behaving like an entrepreneur while working within a larger organization. Intrapreneurs identify and develop new products, services, or processes within an existing company, utilizing the company's resources and support. B. Innovators versus imitators. Innovators, individuals or companies that introduce new methods, ideas, products, or services. They are characterized by their creativity, originality, and ability to disrupt existing markets or create new ones. Imitators, individuals or companies that replicate or adopt existing successful products, services, or business models. While they may refine or adapt what already exists, their primary focus is on adopting proven concepts rather than creating entirely new ones. Question 2, what is an executive summary? Why the executive summary is often called the most important part of a business plan. 15 marks. Answer. An executive summary is a concise overview of a business plan, typically placed at the beginning that highlights the most critical information of the entire document. The executive summary is often called the most important part of a business plan because, first impression, it is usually the first, and sometimes only, part of the business plan that potential investors, lenders, or partners read. A well-written executive summary can capture their attention and encourage them to read the rest of the plan. Quick overview, it provides a quick and comprehensive understanding of the business idea, its objectives, strategies, target market, financial projections, and management team, without requiring the reader to delve into the detailed sections. Decision-making tool, it allows busy decision-makers to quickly assess the viability and attractiveness of the business proposition, enabling them to decide whether to invest more time in evaluating the full plan. Highlights key points, it distills the essence of the entire business plan into a few impactful paragraphs, emphasizing the most compelling reasons for the business's potential success. Question 3, identify any 5 roles of entrepreneurship in the economic development of a country. 15 marks. Answer. 5 roles of entrepreneurship in the economic development of a country are: 1. Job creation, entrepreneurs create new businesses, which in turn generate employment opportunities for various skill levels, reducing unemployment rates and improving livelihoods. 2. Innovation and technological advancement, entrepreneurs often introduce new products, services, and processes, leading to technological advancements, increased productivity, and improved quality of life. 3. Capital formation, entrepreneurs mobilize idle resources and convert them into productive investments, leading to capital formation within the economy, which is crucial for economic growth. 4. Increased national income and wealth, successful entrepreneurial ventures contribute to the gross domestic product, GDP, through increased production, sales, and exports, thereby raising the national income and overall wealth of the country. 5. Regional development and balanced growth, entrepreneurship can lead to the establishment of industries and businesses in underdeveloped regions, promoting balanced regional development and reducing disparities. Section 2, General Economics, 33 marks. Question 1. A. Identify and explain briefly the 4 fundamental economic questions that every society must resolve, and why. 10 marks. B. Distinguish between microeconomics and macroeconomics. 5 marks. Answer. A. The 4 fundamental economic questions that every society must resolve are: 1. What to produce? Explanation: this question deals with the types and quantities of goods and services that an economy should produce. Given scarce resources, society must decide which needs and wants to prioritize. Why? Resources are limited, so choices must be made about what will satisfy the most pressing societal needs or generate the most value. 2. How to produce. Explanation: this question concerns the methods and techniques used to produce goods and services. It involves decisions about the combination of resources, labor, capital, land, entrepreneurship, and the technology to be employed. Why? Different production methods have varying efficiencies and costs, and society needs to choose the most efficient way to utilize its scarce resources. 3. For whom to produce. Explanation: this question addresses how the goods and services produced are distributed among the members of society. It involves issues of equity, income distribution, and access to goods and services. Why? Every society must establish a mechanism for allocating its output to its population, which often involves considering factors like income, wealth, and social welfare. 4. How to accommodate change. Sometimes phrased as how to promote progress/growth. Explanation: this question relates to how an economy adapts to changes in tastes, technology, and resource availability over time, and how it fosters economic growth and development. Why? Economies are dynamic. Societies need mechanisms to adapt to new challenges and opportunities, ensuring long-term sustainability and improvement in living standards. B. Distinction between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics: this branch of economics focuses on the behavior of individual economic units, such as households, firms, and individual markets. It examines how these units make decisions and interact, and how prices and output are determined in specific markets, example the market for cars, the decision-making of a single consumer. Macroeconomics: this branch of economics deals with the economy as a whole. It focuses on aggregate phenomena such as national income, unemployment, inflation, economic growth, and government policies, fiscal and monetary policies, that affect the overall economy. Question 2. A. Distinguish with the aid of diagrams between a change in quantity demanded and a change in demand. 8 marks. B. Identify and explain 5 factors that may cause a change in demand. 10 marks. Answer. A. Distinction between a change in quantity demanded and a change in demand. Change in quantity demanded: this refers to a movement along a single demand curve, caused solely by a change in the product's own price. When the price of a good decreases, the quantity demanded increases, assuming ceteris paribus, and vice versa. Diagram for change in quantity demanded: unable to draw a precise, well-labeled diagram. However, I can describe it. Draw a standard downward sloping demand curve, labeled D. Label the y-axis as price, P, and the x-axis as quantity, Q. Mark 2 points on the demand curve, say A and B. Point A has a higher price, P1, and a lower quantity, Q1. Point B has a lower price, P2, and a higher quantity, Q2. An arrow from A to B, or B to A, along the curve indicates a change in quantity demanded. Change in demand: this refers to a shift of the entire demand curve, caused by factors other than the product's own price. An increase in demand shifts the entire curve to the right, while a decrease in demand shifts it to the left. Diagram for change in demand: unable to draw a precise, well-labeled diagram. However, I can describe it. Draw an initial downward sloping demand curve, labeled D1. Label the y-axis as price, P, and the x-axis as quantity, Q. Draw a new demand curve to the right of D1, parallel to it, labeled D2. This represents an increase in demand. At any given price, the quantity demanded is now higher. Alternatively, draw a new demand curve to the left of D1, parallel to it, labeled D3. This represents a decrease in demand. At any given price, the quantity demanded is now lower. B. 5 factors that may cause a change in demand are: 1. Changes in consumer income. For normal goods, an increase in consumer income leads to an increase in demand, shift right, and a decrease in income leads to a decrease in demand, shift left. For inferior goods, an increase in consumer income leads to a decrease in demand, shift left, and a decrease in income leads to an increase in demand, shift right. 2. Changes in tastes and preferences. If consumers' tastes or preferences for a good increase, example due to advertising, trends, or positive health reports, demand for that good will increase, shift right. Conversely, a decrease in preference will decrease demand, shift left. 3. Changes in the prices of related goods. Substitutes, goods that can be used in place of one another. If the price of a substitute good increases, the demand for the original good will increase, shift right. For example, if the price of coffee rises, the demand for tea, a substitute, will increase. Complements, goods that are typically consumed together. If the price of a complementary good increases, the demand for the original good will decrease, shift left. For example, if the price of gasoline rises, the demand for large SUVs, a complement, might decrease. 4. Changes in consumer expectations. Expectations about future prices, income, or availability can influence current demand. If consumers expect the price of a good to increase in the future, they may increase their current demand for it, shift right. Similarly, if they expect their income to rise, they might increase demand for certain goods now. 5. Changes in population size and demographics. An increase in the total number of consumers, population growth, will generally lead to an increase in overall demand for most goods and services, shift right. Changes in demographics, example an aging population, can also alter the demand for specific types of goods and services. Section 3, Company Law, 33 marks. Question 1, critically examine the principle of corporate personality. 20 marks. Answer. Critically examining the principle of corporate personality. The principle of corporate personality, also known as separate legal entity, is a cornerstone of company law. It establishes that a registered company is a distinct legal entity separate from its shareholders, directors, and members. This means the company can sue or be sued in its own name, own property, enter into contracts, and incur debts independently of its members. The landmark case of Salomon v. A. Salomon & Co. Ltd., 1897, AC 22 firmly established this principle in English law, which has been widely adopted globally. Advantages of corporate personality. 1. Limited liability. This is arguably the most significant advantage. Shareholders' liability for the company's debts is generally limited to the amount they have invested, or agreed to invest, in the company. This encourages investment by reducing personal financial risk, promoting capital formation. 2. Perpetual succession. A company's existence is not dependent on the life or death of its members. It can continue to exist indefinitely, providing stability and continuity for long-term projects and operations. 3. Ability to own property. The company, as a distinct entity, can own assets in its own name, simplifying property transactions and providing security for creditors. 4. Capacity to contract. A company can enter into contracts with third parties in its own name, which facilitates business dealings and provides legal enforceability. 5. Ease of transferability of shares. Shares in a company can be easily bought and sold without affecting the company's existence, facilitating capital mobility and liquidity for investors. 6. Access to capital. The limited liability and perpetual succession features make it easier for companies to raise large amounts of capital from numerous investors. Disadvantages and criticisms: piercing the corporate veil. Despite its benefits, the principle of corporate personality is not absolute and has been subject to criticism, leading to the concept of piercing or lifting the corporate veil. This occurs when courts disregard the separate legal entity of a company and hold the shareholders or directors personally liable for the company's debts or actions. Reasons for piercing the corporate veil typically include: 1. Fraudulent or improper conduct: if the corporate structure is used as a sham or a cloak for fraud, illegality, or to avoid existing legal obligations, courts may disregard the separate personality. For instance, if a company is formed solely to evade a contractual duty or commit a deception. 2. Avoidance of legal obligations: when a company is created merely to escape a pre-existing legal or contractual obligation, the veil may be lifted. 3. Undercapitalization: in some jurisdictions, if a company is severely undercapitalized from its inception, making it an obvious risk to creditors, courts might consider piercing the veil, especially in tort cases. 4. Agency relationship: if the company is merely acting as an agent of its controlling shareholders, or if the controller exercises such pervasive control that the company is a mere alter ego, the veil may be lifted. 5. Public interest/statutory provisions: certain statutes explicitly allow for the piercing of the corporate veil in specific circumstances, example for tax evasion, environmental violations, or specific insolvency scenarios. Courts may also lift the veil where it is deemed to be in the public interest. 6. Group of companies: in a group structure, courts sometimes treat the entire group as a single economic entity, especially when a parent company exerts significant control over its subsidiaries and intermingles their finances or operations. Conclusion: the principle of corporate personality is fundamental to modern commerce, providing essential benefits like limited liability and perpetual succession that foster investment and business growth. However, its unbridled application can lead to abuses. The concept of piercing the corporate veil serves as a crucial judicial and statutory safeguard, ensuring that the principle is not exploited to perpetuate fraud, avoid legitimate obligations, or escape accountability. This balance is vital for maintaining fairness, justice, and the integrity of the corporate system. Question 2. Explain the types of contributions made by shareholder of a company. 13 marks. Answer. Shareholders contribute to a company primarily through their investment, which typically takes two main forms. 1. Financial contribution, capital investment. This is the most common and direct form of contribution. Shareholders provide capital to the company by purchasing its shares. This capital is crucial for the company's operations, expansion, research and development, and meeting its financial obligations. Equity capital: the funds raised through the issuance of shares, common/ordinary shares and preferred/preference shares, represent the ownership stake of the shareholders in the company. This capital does not need to be repaid like a loan, and shareholders generally expect a return on their investment through dividends or capital appreciation. Premium on shares: if shares are issued at a price higher than their par value, nominal value, the excess amount is also a financial contribution from shareholders and is typically recorded as a share premium. Loans: although less common and distinct from equity, shareholders, especially major ones or founders, might also provide loans to the company in addition to their equity investment, which would be a debt obligation for the company. 2. Non-financial contributions: beyond direct capital. While not direct monetary payments for shares, shareholders, particularly founders, active investors, or significant stakeholders, often contribute in non-financial ways that are valuable to the company's success. Expertise and skills: founders and early shareholders often contribute their specialized knowledge, technical skills, industry experience, and strategic insights. For example, a software engineer founding a tech company contributes coding expertise, or a marketing expert contributes market strategy. Intellectual property: IP shareholders might transfer valuable intellectual property rights, patents, copyrights, trademarks, trade secrets, to the company as part of their initial contribution or in exchange for shares. Goodwill and reputation. The reputation, network, and connections of key shareholders can significantly benefit the company by attracting customers, partners, and other investors. This can be particularly true for established entrepreneurs or business leaders. Services rendered. In some cases, especially in nascent companies, shareholders might contribute their services, example management, legal, administrative, in lieu of, or in addition to, cash, often formalized through agreements. Assets in kind. Shareholders might contribute tangible assets, example land, machinery, equipment, buildings, to the company in exchange for shares, rather than cash. This is common in the formation of private companies. In summary, the primary contribution of a shareholder is financial, providing the necessary capital for the company's operations. However, depending on their role and relationship with the company, they can also contribute invaluable non-financial resources like expertise, intellectual property, and reputation, especially in the early stages of a company's life.